All right, so you guys wanted us to take a deep dive into World Marriage Day. It's more than just another holiday on the calendar, though, right? I mean, we should be celebrating love all the time, but there's just something kind of interesting about having a whole day dedicated to marriage specifically. What do you think?
Oh, I absolutely agree. And it's amazing how this day, it was just this past Sunday,
Yeah.
February 9th, how it actually started with just a few couples.
Really?
Yeah, back in 1981 in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, they really wanted a day to just honor marriage and kind of got things going locally.
Huh. So from a small town in Louisiana to, well, a global celebration. I mean, we saw that by the next year it already had endorsements from 43 U.S. governors, and then in 83 it became officially recognized.
Yeah, and what's even more incredible is how it went international. Like in 1993, Pope John Paul II even gave it apostolic blessings, which really solidified its place, especially in the Catholic community worldwide.
So we've got this globally recognized day, always the second Sunday in February. But how do people actually celebrate World Marriage Day? Is it all like fancy dinners and vow renewals?
Well, vow renewals are definitely a popular one, especially in countries with a strong Catholic tradition. It's common for couples to reaffirm their commitment during Sunday Mass.
Makes sense. What about in other parts of the world? I know our research mentioned some pretty cool traditions.
You're probably thinking about the Philippines, right?
Yeah.
They have this really beautiful ceremony called the cord and veil ceremony. It symbolizes the couple being bound together as one. It's a really interesting look into how different cultures incorporate their values and symbolism into celebrating marriage.
I know. It's so cool how these traditions offer a glimpse into different cultures. Speaking of different places, we saw that the theme for this year's World Marriage Day was love one another. That sounds familiar.
It is. It's actually a Bible verse. It's from John 15:12 in the Gospel of John. It's a really powerful message, though, right? It's about way more than just romantic love. It's about compassion and connection with, well, everybody.
Absolutely. And speaking of expanding definitions, our source material touched on how modern weddings are evolving, becoming less about tradition and more about self-expression. What are some of the most striking trends you've seen?
One of the biggest ones is cultural fusion weddings, which blend elements from different heritages.
Oh, yeah, I've seen those. They look amazing.
Like imagine an Indian-American wedding where you have a traditional Hindu mandap ceremony, but also elements of a Western wedding reception. It really reflects how love is increasingly transcending cultural boundaries these days.
I've definitely noticed that, too. It seems like couples are really trying to personalize their weddings. What other trends are pushing the boundaries?
Well, there's a growing awareness of our impact on the environment, which has led to a surge in eco-friendly weddings.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Couples are choosing sustainable venues, locally sourced food, and even just sending digital invitations instead of paper ones to minimize waste.
That's awesome. It's so great to see couples incorporating their values into their big day. Our research also mentioned tech playing a bigger role in weddings now. Is that something you've noticed as well?
Definitely. It's the age of wedding-specific apps, believe it or not.
Wow, really?
Yeah. Couples are using them to manage guest lists, RSVPs, create those digital photo albums we were just talking about, and even make interactive seating charts.
It's crazy how tech is shaping even the most traditional events. But beyond the apps and eco-friendly stuff, there's still the classic destination wedding, right?
Oh, for sure. Combining a wedding with travel is super appealing to a lot of couples.
Yeah, I can see why.
It's a chance to create a unique and memorable experience for both the couple and their guests.
Yeah.
And I mean, who wouldn't want to get married on a beautiful beach or in a charming European city, right?
Right. Okay, so we've got cultural fusions, eco-conscious choices, all this tech stuff, exotic locations. It seems like modern weddings are becoming less about tradition and more like a personalized statement.
I think that's a great way to put it. This shift toward personalization really reflects a broader trend in society, people moving away from cookie-cutter traditions and expressing their individuality within their marriages. It's about celebrating the unique bond between two people in a way that reflects who they really are.
I agree, it's awesome. But it's worth noting that this is happening at a time when marriage itself is facing some pretty big challenges. Like, our research showed that marriage rates are declining globally and people are getting married later in life. What do you think is contributing to this trend?
It's a really complex question, and I think there are multiple factors at play. Part of it is the changing societal landscape. We've seen a shift in attitudes towards marriage, with more emphasis on personal goals and career aspirations. So people are often prioritizing their own development before settling down.
Yeah, that makes sense. Plus, financially speaking, getting married can be a huge undertaking these days, especially with the rising cost of living in so many places.
Exactly. Economic factors definitely play a significant role. Young adults are facing tons of challenges like student loan debt, crazy housing costs, and even unstable job markets, which can make the prospect of marriage and starting a family seem pretty overwhelming.
It's a lot to consider. And then there's the big one, divorce. Our research said that divorce rates are somewhere between 30% and 50% globally, which raises some serious questions about the pressures and complexities that are impacting modern relationships.
You're absolutely right. Those are some pretty significant statistics, and they definitely make you think about what factors contribute to a successful and lasting marriage in today's world.
So, with all of these complexities surrounding marriage, how does World Marriage Day fit into this evolving landscape? Is it even still relevant?
That's where it gets really interesting. Because in a world where marriage is facing all of these challenges, having a day dedicated to celebrating the commitment, the resilience, and the love that fuels lasting relationships, it becomes even more crucial. It's like a chance to reflect, to reaffirm, and to recognize those couples who are navigating these complexities together.
Yeah, I get what you mean. It becomes less about this picture-perfect ideal and more about acknowledging the real work and dedication it takes to make a marriage thrive in the real world.
Exactly.
Ah,
And it's not even just about traditional marriage anymore either. World Marriage Day is evolving to encompass the changing dynamics of relationships today.
you're talking about same-sex marriage and those expanding definitions of family, right?
Right, exactly. The theme, love one another, is inherently inclusive. It embraces all sorts of expressions of love and commitment, even going beyond that traditional husband and wife structure to speak to the universality of human connection.
That's a really nice way to put it. So it seems like World Marriage Day is really about celebrating love, partnership, and the human need for connection.
I think so. And that's a message that should resonate with everyone, whether you're married, single, or somewhere in between.
This is already so insightful. We've talked about the origins of World Marriage Day, how it's celebrated globally, those trends shaping modern weddings, the challenges facing marriage, and how the day is adapting to embrace a wider spectrum of love. What else is there?
Well, next we're going to dive even deeper into these changing relationship dynamics and explore exactly how World Marriage Day is adapting to keep up with the times.
I can't wait. We were just saying how World Marriage Day is adapting to all these changes in love and commitment. Like, it's not just about traditional marriage anymore, right?
Yeah, you're right. It's definitely become much broader. One of the biggest changes we've seen is, well, the growing recognition and acceptance of same-sex marriage.
Oh, absolutely. It's amazing how much progress has been made, and it feels like it's all happened relatively recently. I'm curious, though, how has that impacted our overall understanding of marriage?
It's definitely challenged that traditional definition of what a family should look like.
Yeah.
Like who can even participate in marriage? Those ideas are changing.
Right, so it's not just about changing laws, but also changing mindsets.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that love and commitment, they can exist in all kinds of forms and shouldn't be limited by, old ideas about gender or sexual orientation.
And that really ties in with the World Marriage Day theme, love one another, right? It's such a powerful message about inclusivity.
Yeah, it really is. It highlights how universal love is and how important it is to celebrate all these different ways people commit to each other.
And it's not just about same-sex marriage either. I mean, our research also talked about how the very definition of family is changing too.
You're totally right. We're moving past that, that nuclear family model with the married couple and kids. Now there's a lot more awareness and acceptance of different family structures.
Like blended families, single parents, chosen families, all those variations, right?
Exactly. People are building strong bonds and creating family units that work for them, whether or not they fit that traditional idea of what a family should be.
It's so interesting how those changes are reflected in how we think about and celebrate commitment. Like, even on a day like World Marriage Day, it really shows how the day can stay relevant and meaningful as the world changes.
That's such an important point, because in a world that sometimes feels divided, World Marriage Day kind of reminds us that we all have this capacity for love and connection.
It's like a global celebration of our need to belong, right?
Exactly. And it's more than just celebrating the relationships we have now. It's a chance to think about what commitment means to us personally and how we can all help create a more loving and compassionate world.
So even if someone isn't married or in a traditional relationship, World Marriage Day is still relevant to them.
For sure. It's a day to celebrate any love in our lives, whether it's with a partner, family, friends, or even just the love we have for ourselves.
That's a really nice way to look at it. It makes you think about all the ways love shows up in our lives and how we can, like, nurture that more.
It's a day to reflect on empathy, kindness, understanding all those things that make relationships strong and healthy, no matter what kind of relationship it is.
I'm so glad we decided to do this deep dive into World Marriage Day. It's given me a totally new perspective on what it all means.
Me too. It's been really interesting exploring all these ideas with you.
For sure. Okay, so we've covered the history of World Marriage Day, the different ways people celebrate, what's happening with modern weddings, the challenges facing marriage, and how the day is adapting to all these different kinds of love and commitment. What's next?
Well, now that we've covered so much, I think it's time to turn to our listeners. Here's a question for everyone out there. As the world changes and the definitions of love and family keep evolving, how do we make sure World Marriage Day stays relevant for everyone, regardless of their relationship status?
Ooh, that's a good one. It really makes you think about how we view love and commitment and what the future holds for all of this. I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on this, and I bet our listeners are too. You really left us hanging with that question at the end of part 2. How does World Marriage Day stay relevant when ideas about love and family are changing so much?
Yeah, it's an important one, and it's something we've already seen the day kind of start to address. Like, it's not just about celebrating traditional marriage anymore, right? We're
Yeah.
seeing it acknowledge all these different ways people express love and commitment.
Right, but how do we make sure that keeps going? How does World Marriage Day continue to evolve?
Well, I think we need to really embrace that diversity. And I don't just mean like saying we embrace it, but actually doing it.
Yeah.
Like maybe World Marriage Day could be more about reflection along with the celebration. Asking ourselves, what does commitment mean to me, even if I'm not in a relationship right now?
Oh, I like that. So it becomes more personal, right? It's not just about celebrating other people's marriages, but taking some time to think about how we each practice that idea of loving one another every day.
Exactly. It could be a more individual experience while still being part of that global community that makes World Marriage Day so special.
And it could even open up more conversations just like the one we're having now. Really honest discussions about love and commitment and how all of that is changing without shying away from the messy parts.
Absolutely. Relationships are complicated, and pretending they're not doesn't help anyone. Recognizing that complexity, I think that's how we move forward in a healthy way.
You're so right. And honestly, I think all that complexity is part of what makes it so interesting, don't you think? It's constantly changing and evolving. Like we're always redefining what it means to love and commit to each other.
For sure. It's a journey, both individually and as a society. And World Marriage Day, in a way, gives us this yearly reminder to pause and check in with ourselves
Yeah.
to see where we are on that journey.
That's a beautiful way to think about it. It's not just about this one day, but it's about that ongoing exploration of what love and connection really mean to each of us.
Yeah, well said. I think that about wraps up our deep dive into World Marriage Day.
Wow, this has been such a great conversation. I learned so much more than I expected.
It's been my pleasure.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. We hope this has given you some new ways to think about love, commitment, and all those relationships in your life.
And remember, no matter how you're experiencing this day, whether you're celebrating with someone you love, reflecting on your own journey, or just seeing all the love around you, remember that simple but powerful message at the heart of World Marriage Day. Love one another.
Beautifully said. Until next time, keep talking about these things, keep exploring, and keep loving.